Listen, most people don't stay broke because they're unlucky. They don't stay broke because they're not talented. They don't stay broke because the universe is unfair. Most people stay broke because they live their entire lives inside a cage built from fear and decorated with comfort. I want you to imagine something today. Imagine money as a living energy. Imagine it watching you, observing you, studying your actions. Money asks itself one question before it enters your life. Is this person brave enough to handle me, or will they break under the weight of their own fear? Because hear me, money does not go to the smartest. It does not go to the strongest. It does not go to the ones who complain the loudest. Money goes to the brave. Most people stay broke because they wait. They wait for permission. They wait for confidence. They wait for the perfect moment, as if wealth is something that knocks on your door and says, "Excuse me, are you ready now?" No, money rewards movement, money rewards action, money rewards those who step forward even when their knees are shaking. But do you know what most people do? They build a life around the illusion of safety. They say, "I just want stability." Let me tell you a truth that might shake you. Your comfort zone is the most expensive place you will ever live in. It costs you dreams, it costs you opportunities, it costs you the future you were meant to live. And while most people hide in comfort, the brave choose a different path. The brave say, "I'm scared, but I'll still try. I don't know everything, but I'll take the first step. I might fail, but failure is cheaper than regret." Yes, failure is cheaper than regret. Write that on your heart. Most people stay broke because they fear looking foolish. They fear judgment. They fear starting small. But hear me, every giant started small. Every master began as a beginner. Every wealthy person you admire once had empty pockets but a full spirit. Look at your circle. Are they pushing you or pulling you down? Are they expanding your vision or shrinking your courage? Some of you are trying to build a millionaire mindset, surrounded by people who fear every little risk, and their fear is rubbing off on you. You are not broke because of your circumstances. You are broke because your environment is teaching you to stay small. But today, something shifts today. Something wakes up inside you today. Courage opens its eyes. Because the truth is simple. Money responds to value. Value responds to courage. Courage responds to purpose. When you become a person of purpose, a person of discipline, a person of bravery, money starts moving toward you. It finds you in ways you never expected. It opens doors you didn't know existed. It rewards your boldness. Most people act only when they feel motivated. But the brave, they act even when they're tired. Even when they're discouraged, even when life hits them hard. That is why money stays with them, because their identity is anchored in discipline, not emotion. And let me tell you one more truth. You don't attract money by studying money. You attract money by upgrading who you are. You become the kind of person money trusts, the kind of person opportunities look for, the kind of person destiny recognizes. So ask yourself now, am I waiting to feel ready, or am I brave enough to start? Because the people who change their lives are never the ones who wait. They are the ones who leap. They are the ones who dare. They are the ones who decide, my vision is greater than my fear. My future is bigger than my excuses. You were not born to be average. You were not born to stay broke. You were not born to shrink. You were born to rise, to build, to conquer. Money finds the brave, and today, you become one of them, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Stand up in your spirit, breathe courage into your bones, and declare with power, I will no longer live small. I will no longer let fear decide my future. I am ready, I am courageous, and money will find me because I have become the person who deserves it. Now go. And live like the brave one money has been waiting for. Most people believe they are broke because they don't have enough money, but the truth runs far deeper than what appears in a bank account. Being broke is rarely about the physical absence of money. It is far more often about an internal condition, a mindset built slowly through years of fear, insecurity, and conditioning. A broke mind, it is not something people are born with. It is something they learn from repeated experiences. Scarcity in the home, warnings about the dangers of dreaming too big, lessons from society about staying within limits, and discouragement from people who learn to fear life instead of exploring it. Eventually, this mindset becomes so normal, so familiar, that it forms an invisible boundary around a person's potential. You don't see the boundary, but you feel it every time you hesitate, every time you shrink, every time you stop yourself from choosing something greater. The reason most people stay broke is because their minds have been trained to accept the smallest version of what they can be. They settle for a predictable life because predictable feels safe. They take the safe job, the safe path, the safe decisions, even when these choices keep them struggling month after month. You will hear people say, "I can't afford to take risks," not realizing that staying in their comfort zone is the biggest risk of all. When you are afraid to think bigger, you build a financial ceiling above your head long before life ever does. This is the tragedy of most people's financial lives. Their mental ceiling becomes a prison. Underneath financial struggle lies a deeper emotional struggle. People fear failing, they fear dissatisfaction from others, they fear disappointment, and most of all, they fear being uncomfortable, so they shrink their dreams to match their fears. They shape their expectations around what seems attainable instead of what is possible. A person with a broke mindset may secretly want more, but they talk themselves out of it with thoughts like, "It's too hard. People like me don't make it. What if it doesn't work?" These thoughts don't come from reality, they come from conditioning. No child is born thinking they are limited, but life teaches limitations through repeated negative experiences. Over time, the mind accepts those limitations as truth. This is why someone can earn more money but still feel broke because the mindset has not changed. They spend impulsively to escape emotional discomfort. They fear investing because they fear losing. They stay attached to old patterns because old patterns feel familiar. Without mindset transformation, new opportunities feel like threats instead of possibilities. A broke mindset is like wearing foggy glasses. Even when opportunities appear, you cannot see them clearly. You misinterpret growth as danger, success as stress, and change as instability. There is another silent reason people stay broke. They subconsciously believe that having more money will expose them, challenge them, or force them into levels of responsibility they don't feel ready for. Money amplifies identity. If someone already doubts their worth, money feels heavy. If someone already fears failure, money feels risky. If someone already feels unimportant, money feels undeserved. So without realizing it, they keep themselves small. They sabotage their own progress because remaining broke feels emotionally safer than becoming wealthy and facing new expectations. This unconscious self-protection keeps more people broke than any economic issue ever could. People also stay broke because they learn to normalize struggle. They overhear conversations growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. Life is just hard. These ideas sink into the subconscious mind. They form beliefs that shape decisions for decades. If you grow up believing money is scarce, wasteful spending feels harmless because you expect scarcity anyway. If you believe money is stressful, you avoid confronting your financial reality. If you believe that wealth is only for a chosen few, you will never fight for your place among those few. This is why two people can start with the same circumstances, one rises and one stays stuck. The difference is not intelligence or luck. The difference is mindset. The one who rises sees challenges as stepping stones. They believe that money can be created, value can be learned, skills can be developed, and life can be transformed. The one who stays broke sees challenges as barriers. They believe success is unavailable to them or requires something they don't have. Their beliefs create hesitation. Hesitation creates inaction, and inaction creates stagnation. Fear also plays a major role. When someone is ruled by fear, they cling to what little they have instead of reaching for what they could have. Fear makes them stay in jobs they hate. Fear stops them from learning new skills. Fear keeps them in familiar environments, surrounded by people who reinforce the same limiting beliefs. Fear convinces them that trying something new is dangerous, but staying stagnant is safe, even though stagnation is the very thing draining them. The mind becomes comfortable with routines, even negative ones. If someone has spent years living paycheck to paycheck, their mind adapts to that stress. It becomes their normal. Even if they want more, the unfamiliarity of a better life feels too overwhelming. Change requires courage, and fear suppresses courage. The human brain would rather tolerate a known struggle than risk entering an unknown future. Another overlooked reason people stay broke is emotional attachment to their identity. If someone sees themselves as the one who always struggles, the one who never has enough, the one who comes from nothing, that identity becomes a cage. Even when opportunities come, they sabotage them to stay consistent with the story they tell themselves. Identity is powerful. You don't get the life you want, you get the life that matches who you believe you are. A broke mindset also hides behind excuses. I'll start next month. I don't have time. I don't have support. I'm too old. I'm too young. These excuses feel real, but are mental shields protecting a fragile comfort zone. People don't stay broke because the world is unfair. People stay broke because excuses feel easier than change. The real root of being broke is a mindset trained to fear growth, avoid discomfort, and accept limitations. And until that mindset is broken, no amount of money will create lasting abundance. Bravery is the currency of financial growth, and the world has always rewarded those who dare to move while others hesitate. Money is not attracted to fear. It is not drawn to indecision, hesitation, or timid hearts. Money gravitates toward the bold, the courageous, the ones who step into uncertainty with a fire inside them. If you look closely at every person who has ever transformed their financial life, every entrepreneur, every innovator, every leader, they all share one trait far more powerful than intelligence, connections, or luck. They were brave. They stepped when others stayed still. They acted when others doubted. They believed when others laughed. And that single trait became the magnet that pulled money, opportunity, and success in their direction. Most people wait for bravery to appear. They think courage is something that arrives suddenly, like a wave of confidence that sweeps them forward. But bravery is not a feeling, it is a decision. It is not something you wait for. It is something you choose despite the shaking, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty. The people who rise financially are not fearless, they are simply willing to feel fear and keep moving anyway. They are willing to be uncomfortable today, so they can be free tomorrow. They are willing to invest time, effort, and energy without guarantees. They are willing to believe in their future, even when their present feels small. Money finds these people because money looks for momentum. It looks for commitment. It looks for hunger. When someone rises with confidence, even if that confidence is imperfect and trembling, money recognizes them as someone who can handle more. Because wealth is not just about numbers, it is about emotional capacity. It is about the ability to take risks, to make decisions, to trust yourself in moments when everything feels uncertain. The brave have this capacity, even when they are still learning, even when they are still building, even when they are still figuring themselves out. When you look at people who stay broke, you will often find that their choices are small because their fears are big. They don't move because they don't want to make mistakes. They don't try because they don't want to look foolish. They avoid opportunities because they fear loss more than they crave growth. But people who rise financially flip that internal equation. They crave growth more than they fear loss. They want freedom more than they want comfort. They want the future more than they cling to the past, and this shift, this internal reversal, is what changes everything. Bravery also creates clarity. When you make bold decisions, you discover who you really are. You learn your strengths, your limits, your hidden potential. You uncover qualities you didn't know existed within you. And as you grow, money grows with you. Money follows personal evolution. It responds to internal expansion. When you become bigger inside, your external life begins to reflect that. People often look at someone successful and think they got lucky. But luck rarely creates wealth, courage does. Luck might open a door, but only bravery will walk through it, and only persistence will stay inside long enough to build something meaningful. Bravery also builds skill. When you take risks, you learn. When you start projects, when you invest in yourself, when you experiment, when you try, when you fail and try again, you become a more valuable person. Money flows to value, and value is created through experience. Most people want to be valuable without going through the discomfort that builds value. They want confidence without action. They want success without vulnerability. But the brave embrace the uncomfortable path because they know that everything they want sits on the other side of discomfort. It is easy to admire courage in others and ignore the courage required in your own life. You may have ideas you never acted on, dreams you buried, skills you never developed, projects you abandoned, not because you lacked potential, but because fear was louder than vision. But understand this, every time you suppress bravery, you suppress abundance. Every time you avoid a risk, you avoid a reward. Every time you choose the safe path, you delay the life waiting for you. The brave think differently. They see uncertainty as a field of possibilities. They see challenges as tests that qualify them for bigger blessings. They see failure as a teacher, not a verdict. They see risk as a doorway, not a danger. This mindset is magnetic. It attracts opportunities because opportunities only reveal themselves to the ones who are willing to take them. You may not realize it, but the universe hides its greatest gifts behind moments of fear. If you run from fear, you run from your blessings. If you confront fear, you unlock your destiny. Money is a test of responsibility. It asks, can you handle growth? Can you handle opportunity? Can you manage emotion without panic? Can you think clearly under pressure? The brave prove their readiness through their actions. The broke-minded demand guarantees. But those who rise understand that life does not offer guarantees, only chances. And the brave take those chances again and again, until their courage becomes their wealth. The world is desperate for brave minds. Brave minds create businesses, solve problems, lift communities, inspire others. Brave minds do not wait for change. They create it, and money, like a loyal companion, follows those who create change. If you want more money, you must first cultivate more courage. Not loud, flashy bravery, but quiet, consistent bravery. The kind that wakes up early, learns new skills, invests in growth, takes responsibility, confronts weaknesses, and acts even when the outcome is uncertain. Bravery is not always grand. Sometimes it is a small choice, a phone call, a step forward, a yes you would normally say no to, a decision to start instead of waiting. but small acts of bravery compound. They build momentum, they build identity, they build a version of you who is unstoppable. When you embrace courage, you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I grow beyond everything I ever imagined?" Because that is what bravery does. It expands you, it stretches you. It unlocks wealth not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And once you taste that expansion, you will never again settle for a life ruled by fear. Money finds the brave because the brave find themselves. They break the chains of fear and walk toward a future that belongs only to those who dare to reach for it. Most people stay broke not because they lack opportunity, not because they lack talent, and not because the world is against them, but because they have spent their entire lives waiting for permission to begin. They wait for someone to validate their dreams. They wait for the right moment, the right time, the right clarity, the right motivation. They wait for signs from the universe, approval from family, support from friends, or perfect conditions that rarely ever come. They live in a state of almost ready, convincing themselves that one day they will finally feel prepared enough to take action. But one day never arrives, because life does not reward waiting, it rewards movement. Waiting is the silent killer of potential. People hesitate because they don't want to make mistakes, but the tragic irony is that the real mistake is the hesitation itself. Years pass while they analyze, plan, dream, and doubt. They carry incredible ideas, powerful visions, and deeply rooted desires, but they trap those dreams behind layers of fear disguised as logic. They tell themselves, "Let me save a little more. Let me learn a little more. Let me gain more experience. Let me wait until I'm more confident." While the truth is that starting is the very thing that would have given them the confidence and experience they are waiting for. Life opens doors, but most people stand outside because they don't feel worthy enough to step in. They tell themselves they need approval, permission, or some external green light before they can act. This mindset becomes a cage, and the cage is built from excuses that feel reasonable, but are deeply rooted in fear. People convince themselves they are being wise, cautious, responsible, but deep down, their hesitation is not wisdom, it is fear dressed as wisdom. And fear is the most expensive thing a human being can own. When you wait for permission to start, you hand the steering wheel of your life to external forces. You give other people the power to decide your timing, your growth, your direction. You allow circumstances to dictate your destiny. This is the reason so many remain stuck. They believe life happens to them, not through them. They underestimate their power to move, create, and initiate. They forget that every successful person they admire had a moment where they began without permission, without approval, without certainty. They started while unprepared, uncertain, unpolished, and because they started, life began opening up. Waiting also creates illusion. The longer you wait, the larger your fears grow. Your mind exaggerates the risks. You begin imagining worst case scenarios until taking action feels dangerous. But something incredible happens when you finally move. You realize the danger was never real, only imagined. Action reveals that most fears are nothing but shadows with loud voices. The people who move despite fear discover that the path becomes clearer only after you take the first step, not before. People often wait because they think they need confidence to start, but confidence is a result, not a requirement. It is built through action, through trial, through failure, through small victories. Confidence is not something that appears magically and pushes you forward. It is something created by the very actions you are avoiding. The person who waits for confidence will wait forever. Some people wait because they believe others will judge them. They fear criticism more than they fear regret. They are so concerned with how they look in the beginning that they forget everyone looks messy at the start. Every millionaire has a phase they are embarrassed by. Every expert was once a beginner fumbling their way through uncertainty. Every creator has early work they no longer show. Every leader has a chapter they don't talk about. But without those imperfect beginnings, they would not have achieved anything. The difference between those who stay broke and those who rise is that the latter are willing to look imperfect temporarily to become extraordinary eventually. Another reason people wait is because they believe timing is everything. They think success requires the perfect alignment of stars, circumstances, and luck. But perfect timing is a myth. There is no perfect moment. There are only moments you decide to make perfect by taking action. People who achieve abundance create their own timing. They act in imperfect conditions. They build momentum while others are frozen by doubt. They understand that waiting delays success far more than failure ever could. Failure teaches, shapes, and redirects. Waiting teaches nothing. People also wait because they believe they don't know enough yet. But learning happens fastest when you are already in motion. You cannot learn to swim by watching the water. You learn by stepping into it. Experience teaches more than planning, more than reading, more than imagining. The world belongs to those who learn through doing, not those who wait until they feel they know everything. The truth is, no one fully knows what they're doing in the beginning. They figure it out along the way. The brave step onto the road even when they don't understand the entire map. Waiting becomes a habit. The longer you delay action, the easier it becomes to delay again. Tomorrow becomes a cycle. Someday becomes a lifestyle. People wake up years later realizing they are living a life they never intentionally chose. They wake up stuck in routines they fell into, not ones they created. Their dreams shrink as their fears grow. Their potential fades as their hesitation becomes normal. And slowly, without even noticing, they trade the life they want for the life they settled for. Deep down, every human being knows the truth. Life rewards the initiators, the ones who take the first step even when they are scared, the ones who start while others wait, the ones who build while others talk, the ones who try while others justify, the ones who act even when no one believes in them. These are the people who attract money, opportunity, growth, and abundance. Because the universe does not open doors for those who hesitate, it opens doors for those who knock. When you finally stop waiting, when you stop seeking permission, when you stop expecting perfect conditions, something powerful happens. Life begins responding to your courage. Doors start appearing. People start helping. Opportunities start forming. Because action creates movement, and movement creates momentum. And once momentum builds, it becomes nearly impossible to stay stuck. The truth is simple. If you are waiting, you are losing time, energy, and opportunity. But if you choose to move even imperfectly, even fearfully, you unlock the financial, emotional, and spiritual growth that has been waiting for you all along. One of the greatest reasons most people stay broke is because they underestimate the cost of staying the same. They believe doing nothing is neutral, that avoiding risk keeps them safe, and that their current life will remain stable if they simply protect what little they have. But the truth is brutal and rarely spoken. Staying the same is the most expensive decision a person can make. Life is constantly moving, the world is constantly changing, opportunities are constantly shifting, and the people who refuse to grow are slowly left behind. Mediocrity may feel comfortable in the short term, but it becomes financially deadly in the long term. The world punishes stagnation. The market punishes hesitation. Time punishes those who refuse to evolve. Most people don't realize that standing still is not standing still, it is falling behind. While they cling to their comfort zones, Technology advances, industries shift, skills become outdated, and new opportunities emerge that they are not prepared to seize. Someone with equal ability but greater courage overtakes them. Someone with less talent but more hunger surpasses them. Someone who simply decided to grow leaves them in the dust. The person who stays the same slowly becomes uncompetitive, unprepared, and unable to create value in a world that rewards adaptability. But instead of seeing the need for growth, they blame circumstances, blame their past, blame the economy, blame luck, blame everyone except the one thing that actually caused the stagnation, their refusal to evolve. Growth has a cost, yes, time, effort, discomfort, vulnerability, but staying the same has a far greater cost: regret, frustration, scarcity, dependence, and a lifetime of what if. People want financial growth without personal growth. They want more money while staying the same person. They want bigger opportunities while keeping the same mindset. They want higher income without increasing their value. But money flows to those who upgrade themselves. Life rewards those who invest in evolving. When you remain the same, your value in the marketplace stays the same, and therefore your income stays the same. People forget that they are paid based on the problems they can solve. If you don't grow, you don't improve your ability to solve bigger problems, and if you don't solve bigger problems, you don't earn bigger rewards. There is also a psychological reason people stay the same. Familiarity is seductive. Even misery becomes comfortable if you live in it long enough. A person can hate their job, complain about their life, feel trapped financially, yet still resist change because the routine feels predictable. Predictability gives the illusion of safety, even if it's slowly destroying a person's future. The brain clings to patterns, even harmful ones, because patterns feel known. Unknown territory triggers fear. That fear convinces people to stay where they are, even when where they are is hurting them. This is why so many remain broke, not because they cannot grow, but because staying the same feels easier than stretching into the unknown. People also fear the emotional cost of growth. Growth demands humility. It requires admitting flaws, mistakes, weaknesses. It demands that you confront your own limitations and be honest about where you are falling short. It forces you to face uncomfortable truths, that your habits have held you back, that your thinking has been small, that your past decisions have created your present reality. Most people avoid this self-confrontation because it is painful. But avoiding self-awareness keeps them trapped in the same cycles. Without reflection, there is no improvement. Without improvement, there is no financial expansion. Another hidden reason people refuse to grow is because growth often requires separating from relationships that reinforce stagnation. Many people stay the same because they are surrounded by others who stay the same. Their environment praises comfort, mocks ambition, discourages risk, and normalizes small thinking. When someone tries to grow, those around them feel threatened. They say, "Don't change, don't dream too big, be realistic." Not because they care about your safety, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. So people shrink themselves to maintain acceptance. They sacrifice their future for the comfort of fitting in. And as a result, they stay broke, not financially alone, but emotionally tied to limiting environments. People also underestimate how fast life can shift once they commit to growth. They imagine that growth will take forever, so they delay it. They say, "I'll start next month. I'll try when things calm down. I'll focus on myself when I have more time." But growth doesn't demand perfection, it demands initiation. One new skill, one new mindset, one new habit, one new opportunity can change the entire trajectory of a life. A year of growth can elevate someone to levels they could never reach after 10 years of staying the same. But because they can't see the future clearly, they settle for the present, even if the present is suffocating them. The most dangerous part of staying the same is that it feels harmless. There is no immediate punishment, no dramatic consequence, no sudden collapse. Stagnation is slow, quiet, subtle. It eats away at your potential little by little. You lose opportunities you never realized you missed. You lose momentum you never started. You lose confidence you never built. You lose years you thought you had plenty of. And by the time you feel the consequences, the damage is already done. Not because it's too late, but because you wasted so much time convincing yourself you had plenty left. What people don't understand is that the universe responds to effort. It responds to growth. It responds to movement. When you become a better version of yourself, better opportunities emerge. When you increase your discipline, your income increases. When you upgrade your mindset, your life upgrades with it. Money is not attracted to stagnation. Money is attracted to expansion. Abundance is not attracted to comfort. Abundance is attracted to evolution. At some point in life, a person must choose between the pain of growth and the pain of staying the same. Growth hurts because it demands effort. Staying the same hurts because it slowly destroys your potential. Growth is sharp pain that leads to strength. Stagnation is silent pain that leads to regret. And regret is the heaviest debt a human being can carry. When you grow, you earn more not because the world becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You become wiser, more skilled, more courageous, more valuable. And when you become more valuable, life gives you more in return. The decision to grow is the decision to stop living the same year repeatedly and call it a life. It is the decision to rise from comfort, to challenge limitations, to step into possibility, and to become the kind of person wealth is naturally drawn to. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the right mood, waiting for someone to validate them, waiting for circumstances to magically align. And in that endless wait, money quietly slips past them and chooses someone else. Not because they are less talented, not because they are less worthy, but simply because they never move. They never step into the arena. They stay on the sidelines convincing themselves that someday, they'll be ready. But the truth is, nobody is ever ready. Readiness is not a prerequisite for success. Readiness is the reward for taking action. Yet most people misunderstand this and spend years preparing, planning, polishing, perfecting. Everything except executing, and that is why money passes them by, why opportunities dry up in front of them, why life feels stuck even when they feel like they're trying. You see, life responds to movement. Money responds to motion. The universe responds to momentum. The moment you stop moving, your life stops expanding. But when you move, even if it's messy, even if you stumble, things begin to unlock. Doors appear where walls once stood. Helpers arrive where loneliness once lived. Solutions show up where confusion once reigned. But the majority never experience this because fear convinces them that stillness is safer. Let me think about it. Let me wait a bit longer. Let me see what happens. And that hesitation becomes a habit, and the habit becomes a lifestyle, and the lifestyle becomes a prison. Fear whispers the most seductive lie ever told: you have time, but you don't, not the kind you imagine. Time is not a guarantee, it's a permission that can be revoked any moment, and every day wasted in hesitation is a day invested in regret. This is why the gap between the wealthy and the broke is not intelligence. It's not background, it's not luck, it is the speed of execution. The wealthy are not fearless. They are simply faster than their fears. They leap while others linger. They experiment while others hesitate. They make mistakes while others wait for perfection. And because of that, money sees them as partners. Money flows to people who move. Money grows with people who act. But let's go deeper. The reason most people stay broke is not just fear of failure. Sometimes it's fear of responsibility. When you step into action, life demands something from you. It demands commitment. It demands discipline. It demands consistency. It demands that you show up on days when you're tired, broken, confused, insecure, uncertain, and overwhelmed. And many are not ready for that level of accountability. They want success as long as it feels comfortable. They want growth as long as it doesn't stretch them. They want wealth without the weight. But life does not work that way. Money does not respond to wishful thinking. Money responds to responsibility. And then there is another silent destroyer, the addiction to overthinking. People don't fail from taking action nearly as much as they fail from talking themselves out of it. Overthinking is the enemy of execution. It magnifies the bad, blurs the good, and paralyzes your movement. You imagine scenarios that never happen, problems that don't exist, obstacles that you would have solved if you had simply started. Overthinking is the art of creating suffering in advance, and most people are masters at it. They analyze themselves into poverty. They calculate themselves into fear. They plan themselves into stagnation. And before they know it, years pass while they are still standing at the starting line. But here's the deeper truth: those who act gain clarity, those who move gain wisdom, those who step gain confidence. Action isn't just the key to success, it is the cure for fear. When you act, fear loses its grip on you. When you act, doubt begins to melt. When you act, you gather evidence that you can. And when you have evidence, you gain faith. Not blind faith, but earned faith. Faith that comes from doing, faith that comes from trying, faith that comes from taking one step, then another, then another. The people who change their lives are not the ones who think the most. They are the ones who act the fastest. They say yes before fear convinces them to say no. They take the first step even when they can't see step 2. They trust that movement creates clarity, that progress creates possibility, that momentum creates miracles. Because it does. When you move with intention, life starts rearranging itself around your energy. Opportunities begin to gravitate toward you. People begin to notice you. Doors you didn't even know existed begin to unlock. Not because you are lucky, but because you are in motion. And the irony, action doesn't guarantee success, but inaction guarantees failure. When you move, you might win or you might learn, but when you wait, you lose every time. This is a universal truth. Hesitation is more expensive than failure. Failure costs you time. Hesitation costs you years. Failure teaches you. Hesitation traps you. Failure gives you feedback. Hesitation gives you regret. And regret is the heaviest debt a human can carry. So if you truly want to escape a broke mindset, if you truly want to break the cycle, if you truly want money to find you, you must become a person of movement. Not reckless movement, intentional movement, not emotional movement, disciplined movement, the kind of movement that tells life, I am ready for more. Not because you feel ready, but because you decided to be ready. Money flows to the brave, not because bravery guarantees success, but because bravery signals worthiness. Bravery tells the universe, I am willing to try, I am willing to learn, I am willing to fail, I am willing to grow. And when you show that willingness, life responds with opportunity. It responds with connections. It responds with breakthroughs that were invisible when you stood still. Because movement is magic, and the moment you choose action over fear, movement over hesitation, progress over perfection, your entire financial reality begins to shift. The world doesn't reward the smartest, it rewards the movers, the ones who dare to act before they feel ready, the ones who show up even when it's uncomfortable, the ones who step forward even when their voice shakes. The ones who choose momentum over excuses. Because the truth is simple, the sooner you move, the sooner money finds you. One of the greatest reasons people stay broke is because they underestimate the power of habits. Not the habits they practice occasionally, not the habits they perform when they're inspired or encouraged, but the daily habits. The small, repeated actions that quietly shape their financial destiny. People think money is about big wins, huge breakthroughs, sudden opportunities, or dramatic changes. But money doesn't work that way. Wealth is not built in explosions, it's built in repetitions. It's not the intensity of your effort that changes your life, it's the consistency of your effort. You don't become wealthy through one moment of brilliance. You become wealthy through hundreds of tiny disciplined choices that compound over time. But most people live in cycles, not systems. They have cycles of motivation followed by cycles of distraction. They start strong and fall off. They plan big and execute small. They promise themselves they'll change, but they do it for a day or two and then slip back into old patterns that feel comfortable. And comfort is one of the most expensive luxuries in the world. Comfort costs people their dreams. Comfort costs people their potential. Comfort costs people their financial freedom. Comfortable habits produce uncomfortable lives, but disciplined habits, though uncomfortable in the moment, produce comfortable futures. The heartbreaking part is, people don't realize how their habits betray them. They think one day of inconsistency doesn't matter. They think one skipped task won't hurt. They think one day of procrastination won't affect anything. But life doesn't change in one day, it changes because of what you do every day. Your habits are always voting for the person you become. Every small act is a vote, either a vote for your wealthy future or a vote for your broke patterns. Most people never connect these dots. They live reactively, not intentionally. They let their emotions dictate their actions, not their purpose. And purpose without daily discipline becomes wasted potential. People stay broke because they are consistent, but consistent in the wrong things, consistent in scrolling, consistent in complaining, consistent in doubting, consistent in postponing, consistent in giving energy to distractions instead of execution. Imagine what your life would look like if the consistency you give to fear, excuses, and procrastination was redirected toward building, learning, saving, creating, executing, improving. Your entire life would transform. Not gradually, radically, but here's the deeper truth. Wealthy people don't necessarily work harder. They work more consistently. They train their minds to repeat powerful behaviors until those behaviors become identity. Because when an action becomes identity, it becomes effortless. A wealthy mindset is built through repetitive alignment. Wealthy people don't think about whether they feel like growing today. They just grow. They don't check their mood before taking action. They just act. They don't wait for motivation. They rely on structure. Motivation changes your mood. Discipline changes your life, and structure protects discipline. People stay broke because they depend on motivation, which is temporary, emotional, and unstable. Motivation feels good, but it is not reliable. But habits are reliable. Habits don't care how you feel. Habits don't care if you're tired. Habits don't care if you woke up sad or discouraged. Habits don't need inspiration. They run on consistency, and consistency builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds opportunity, and opportunity builds wealth. Yet many people sabotage themselves with one dangerous belief. I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. And one day, they look back and realize that tomorrow stole their life. But wealthy people don't live in tomorrow. They live in today. They show up today. They invest today. They learn today. They execute today. Their habits don't start someday. They start now, and that is why money gravitates toward them. Money flows where discipline grows. Let's go even deeper. Your habits communicate to life what you are ready for. If your habits are small, life gives you small opportunities. If your habits are inconsistent, life gives you inconsistent results. If your habits are lazy, life gives you lazy outcomes. But if your habits are disciplined, life gives you disciplined rewards. If your habits are intentional, life gives you intentional breakthroughs. If your habits are strong, life gives you strong results. Life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you repeatedly practice. And here's something most people never realize. Your future self is watching you. Every day, your future self is either thanking you or cursing you. Your habits are seeds you're planting in the ground of your future. Habits of discipline plant abundance. Habits of procrastination plant poverty. Habits of learning plant opportunity. Habits of excuses plant limitation. Every day you are sowing something, and one day you will harvest everything. Some people say they want success, but their habits show they want comfort more. They want wealth, but their habits reveal they want convenience more. Wealth demands consistency, convenience demands compromise. And money always chooses the person who shows up daily, not occasionally. To escape being broke, you must choose habits that align with your financial destiny. Habits like waking up with purpose. Habits like managing your money with intention. Habits like learning when others are entertaining themselves. Habits like executing even when nobody is watching. Habits like staying focused when distractions call your name. The habit of saying no to the things that drain you. The habit of saying yes to the things that build you. And remember this: small, disciplined habits repeated daily will outperform big, dramatic efforts done occasionally. A 20-minute improvement every day will transform your life more than a 5-hour burst of motivation once a month. Consistency compounds, discipline compounds, focus compounds, and money compounds along with them. If you want money to find you, you must become predictable in your discipline. Let your actions be so consistent, so dependable, so aligned, that life begins to trust you with more. Because wealth is not just a reward, it's a responsibility, and discipline is the proof that you can handle it. And when you become the kind of person whose habits reflect strength, purpose, growth, and intention, money will no longer avoid you. It will recognize you, it will respect you, it will stay with you, because money stays where discipline lives. One of the greatest reasons most people stay broke is because they surround themselves with the wrong energy, wrong voices, wrong influences, wrong environments. You can have the right heart, the right intention, the right ambition, the right dreams, but if you place those dreams in a toxic environment, they will suffocate. Dreams don't die because they are impossible. Dreams die because the environment is hostile to growth. And most people never realize that their circle is slowly shaping their financial destiny. You see, money is not just a tool. Money is energy. It gravitates toward clarity, confidence, boldness, ambition, discipline, and purpose. But those qualities cannot survive in environments filled with negativity, doubt, small thinking, fear-based mindsets, and people who secretly resent your growth. And the tragedy, most people don't choose their environment intentionally, they inherit it. They grow up around conversations that normalize struggle. They adopt beliefs from people who never questioned their own limitations. They accept financial habits from families and friends who never learned anything different. And without realizing it, they build their entire mindset in a room full of ceilings. You cannot expect to rise while surrounded by people who are committed to staying low. You cannot grow wealth while being surrounded by voices that criticize ambition. You cannot build a future while being surrounded by people who only talk about the past. And you cannot expand your potential while being surrounded by those who shrink from the unknown. Environments shape behavior more than motivation does. You can be motivated for a moment, but your environment trains your mind every single day. This is why people stay broke. They cling to relationships that drain their energy, consume their confidence, and weaken their ambition. They stay loyal to circles that sabotage their success. They confuse familiarity with alignment, history with destiny, comfort with growth. But familiar relationships aren't always healthy relationships. And sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who are limiting you the most, not out of malice, but out of limitation. They can't see what you see. They don't dream how you dream. They don't hunger how you hunger. And the worst mistake you can make is lowering your vision to match someone else's comfort. Small minds create small conversations. Small conversations create small actions, and small actions create small lives. If you are trying to grow, you cannot survive on small conversations anymore. Conversations full of gossip drain your potential. Conversations full of complaints drain your courage. Conversations full of doubt drain your confidence. Conversations full of excuses drain your discipline. And conversations full of fear drain your fire. But conversations full of ideas elevate your mind. Conversations full of strategy elevate your ambition. Conversations full of growth elevate your habits. Conversations full of dreams elevate your direction. Conversations full of courage elevate your energy. Wealthy people choose their conversations with intention. Your environment is not just the people around you. It is also the atmosphere you create within yourself. The content you consume shapes your beliefs. The voices you listen to shape your expectations. The stories you repeat to yourself shape your identity. If you constantly listen to negativity, you absorb negativity. If you constantly watch distractions, you become distracted. If you constantly feed your mind fear, you freeze your future. But if you feed your mind wisdom, you grow in wisdom. If you surround yourself with people who are building, you start building. If you listen to people who dream bigger, your own dreams begin to expand. And if you surround yourself with warriors, you cannot remain weak. Most people stay broke because they are terrified of outgrowing their circle. They fear being judged, misunderstood, mocked, or abandoned for wanting more. But growth does not require permission. It requires courage, and wealth is not built in comfort zones. It's built in growth zones. You cannot elevate your life while clinging to relationships that anchor you down. You cannot step into your next level while protecting the feelings of people who are committed to staying in their current level. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is distance yourself from anyone who makes you doubt your own potential. But here's the sacred truth. You do not need to cut people off with anger or bitterness. You simply rise, and as you rise, certain energies will naturally fall away. Not because you are better than anyone, but because you are becoming better than your old self. Growth creates separation. Expansion creates distance. And that distance is necessary, because in that space, you discover who you really are without the noise of other people's fears. But let's go even deeper. The right environment not only protects your ambition, it multiplies it. When you surround yourself with people who think bigger, you automatically think bigger. When you surround yourself with action takers, you feel inspired to act. When you surround yourself with disciplined people, your own discipline increases. When you surround yourself with people who speak possibility, your mind shifts to abundance. Environment is a silent teacher. It shapes you without asking. This is why wealthy people guard their environment with intention. They understand the power of proximity. They understand that energy is contagious. They understand that belief is contagious. They understand that momentum is contagious. and they intentionally place themselves around people who elevate their frequency, because money is attracted to environments that expect growth. And that leads to the core truth. If you want money to find you, you must first place yourself in environments where money is normal, where growth is normal, where ambition is normal, where progress is normal, where discipline is normal, where winning is not surprising, it's expected. Because the moment you normalize wealth in your mind, it begins to appear in your life. Surround yourself with people whose presence wakes up your greatness, not your excuses. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, not comfort you into stagnation. Surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not people. Surround yourself with people whose very existence inspires you to upgrade the way you think, act, speak, learn, build, and live. Because your environment is the soil, and you are the seed. Even the strongest seed cannot grow in the wrong soil. If you're willing to choose a new environment, you're already choosing a new future. And when your environment aligns with your ambition, money doesn't just appear, it stays. One of the biggest reasons most people stay broke is because they refuse to break the mental and emotional patterns they inherited. They carry beliefs that were never theirs. They repeat behaviors they never questioned. They live inside stories created by people who stopped dreaming long before they were born, and without realizing it, they end up fighting battles in their mind that have nothing to do with reality, because the truth is, you are not just fighting for money, you are fighting against programming. You are fighting against generational habits, generational fears, generational limitations, and generational wounds that have been handed down like old furniture. But you can't build a wealthy future with a poverty-coded mindset. You cannot create abundance with beliefs designed for survival. Most people never question the money narratives they grew up with. They simply absorb them. They hear phrases like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "We can't afford that," "Rich people are greedy," "Play it safe," "Don't take risks," "Be grateful for what you have," "Don't ask for more." And these phrases become invisible chains wrapped around their potential, not because their families were wrong, but because their families were scared. Scarcity thinking is inherited from people who are trying to survive. But survival mode is the enemy of wealth. Survival keeps you cautious. Survival keeps you small. Survival keeps you afraid of loss, afraid of failure, afraid of risk, afraid of change. And wealth requires the opposite. Wealth requires expansion. Wealth requires courage. Wealth requires emotional resilience. Wealth requires the willingness to explore the unknown. This is why people stay broke. They are emotionally attached to old lessons that no longer serve their future. They are loyal to teachings that belong to a different era, a different struggle, a different reality. They feel guilty for wanting more because they were raised around people who never had more. They fear outgrowing their roots. They fear success will make them different. They fear wealth will separate them from the people they love. So they dim their own light to avoid making others uncomfortable. But the truth is, you are not betraying your upbringing by wanting abundance. You are upgrading it. You are not disrespecting your family by surpassing their limitations. You are breaking ceilings they never had the chance to break. But breaking generational patterns requires emotional bravery. It requires looking at your fears and asking, who taught me this, and who benefits if I stay this way? Most people stay broke because their emotional wounds rule their decisions. They fear rejection, so they don't ask for opportunities. They fear judgment, so they don't put themselves out there. They fear failure, so they don't take risks. They fear disappointment, so they don't dream big. They fear success, so they play small. Emotions, when untrained, become the prison guards of potential. But here is the deeper truth. Money doesn't just require skills. It requires emotional strength. You cannot handle wealth with a fragile mind. You cannot build abundance if your emotions collapse under pressure. Wealth demands the ability to stay calm in chaos. Wealth demands the ability to take calculated risks. Wealth demands the ability to stay focused when you feel overwhelmed. Wealth demands the ability to keep moving even when doubt tries to suffocate your ambition. Wealth demands the emotional maturity to delay gratification, manage frustration, overcome fear, and survive moments of uncertainty. People stay broke because they let emotions lead the way. They wait to feel ready, but readiness is not an emotion, it's a decision. They wait to feel confident, but confidence is not a gift, it's a muscle built through action. They wait until they feel less scared, but courage is not the absence of fear, it is the ability to move despite fear. Emotion-led lives create unstable results. Purpose-led lives create breakthroughs. And then there's the emotional attachment to comfort. Comfort feels safe, predictable, familiar, but comfort kills potential. Comfort sedates your ambition. Comfort whispers you're okay where you are, even when your soul screams for more. Comfort tricks you into believing that small dreams are enough. People stay broke because they refuse to endure temporary discomfort for permanent transformation. They want success without struggle, growth without pain, wealth without sacrifice. But the universe has never rewarded anyone who tried to grow without stretching. Breaking the emotional patterns that keep you broke means you must learn the courage to be uncomfortable, the courage to take steps without certainty, the courage to embrace temporary fear for long-term freedom, the courage to unlearn what no longer serves you, the courage to question everything, your beliefs, your habits, your fears, your excuses, everything. Let's go deeper. Emotional discipline is the real wealth. People think financial discipline is about budgets and numbers. No, financial discipline starts with emotional discipline. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your decisions. If you cannot control your decisions, you cannot control your habits. If you cannot control your habits, you cannot control your outcomes. And if you cannot control your outcomes, you cannot control your financial destiny. When you master your emotions, you master your life. When you master your life, money begins to notice you. Money flows to the emotionally strong because they can carry it, they can protect it, they can multiply it. They can handle the weight of responsibility that comes with abundance. Money avoids chaotic minds. Money avoids impulsive minds. Money avoids fearful minds. Money avoids emotional instability, because money stays where emotional intelligence lives. So yes, people stay broke because their emotions stay untrained. They are held hostage by fear, guilt, doubt, insecurity, shame, and the emotional inheritance of generations who struggled to survive. But the moment you decide to break those patterns, the moment you say, "This ends with me," the moment you choose courage over comfort and purpose over fear, you begin rewriting your entire bloodline. You become the one who breaks the curse, the one who shifts the legacy, the one who rewrites the story, the one who becomes emotionally strong enough to create new possibilities for everyone who comes after you. Money finds the emotionally brave, success finds the emotionally disciplined, and abundance finds the emotionally upgraded. Your emotional transformation is your financial breakthrough, and once you conquer the battles within, the world outside can no longer stop you. One of the biggest reasons most people stay broke is because they don't understand the difference between activity and progress. They confuse being busy with being productive. They confuse movement with momentum. They confuse exhaustion with achievement. And in this confusion, they lose years, sometimes decades, running in circles that lead nowhere. Most people are not stuck because they aren't working hard. They are stuck because they are working hard on the wrong things. People think the key to wealth is effort. No, effort without direction is wasted. Effort without strategy is noise. Effort without clarity is just motion without meaning. And here's the painful truth. Most people pour their energy into tasks that keep them distracted, not tasks that move them forward. They chase tasks that feel productive, but produce nothing. They stay busy, but not effective. They hustle, but not intentionally. They confuse chaos with progress, and the result, they burn out without leveling up. This is why so many people feel tired but not successful, busy but not fulfilled, constantly moving but not advancing. They don't lack ambition, they lack alignment, they don't lack discipline, they lack direction. They don't lack effort, they lack a plan, and life keeps them stuck in survival mode because survival mode always keeps you reacting instead of creating. When you are constantly reacting, you are not building. When you are constantly responding to everything around you, you are not designing your path ahead. People stay broke because they invest more energy in looking productive than actually being productive. They do 50 small tasks that make them feel busy instead of doing the 3 high-impact tasks that would actually change their life. They clean their desk, fix their files, readjust their plans, rewatch tutorials they never implement, and scroll through motivation content, hoping it counts as progress. But content isn't progress, planning isn't progress, dreaming isn't progress. Real progress requires action aligned with purpose. Here's the deeper truth: the wealthy understand the power of focus. The broke understand the feeling of being overwhelmed. Busy people work harder, wealthy people work wiser. Busy people do everything, wealthy people do only what matters. Busy people say yes to every task. Wealthy people say yes only to opportunity. Busy people fill their schedule, wealthy people fill their future. And the most painful reality, many people stay broke because they're addicted to low-value tasks. They don't even realize it, but they gravitate toward what feels easy, familiar, and safe. They choose the tasks that require effort but not courage, tasks that tire the body but not the mind, tasks that drain time but not fear. Because deep down, the tasks that actually create wealth, starting, risking, selling, learning, investing, building, require emotional investment. They require vulnerability. They require stepping into uncertainty. And people fear uncertainty more than they fear poverty. So they stay in the comfort of low-level work because it keeps them busy enough to avoid guilt, but safe enough to avoid growth. And so the years drift by. Dreams become distant. Potential becomes buried. They blame circumstances, timing, lack of resources. But the truth is, they never mastered the skill of focusing on the right things. Let's go deeper. The broke chase tasks. The wealthy chase outcomes. Tasks drain time. Outcomes create futures. People who stay broke focus on doing more. People who build wealth focus on doing the right things consistently. And one of the biggest traps is this: people confuse urgency with importance. They spend their days putting out tiny fires that don't actually matter. They respond instantly to messages that don't benefit them. They prioritize the demands of others over the dreams within themselves. They let distractions dictate their day, and if you let distractions run your day, distractions will run your destiny. People stay broke because they never build a system for their life. They live by impulse instead of intention. They move based on whatever is screaming the loudest, not what is most aligned with their future. But wealthy people operate differently. They organize their lives around priorities, not pressures. They have a clear sense of direction that filters every decision. Every action either contributes to their future or gets eliminated. They don't chase everything. They choose strategically. Now, here's the powerful truth that most people ignore. Money follows effectiveness, not effort. Money follows results, not routines. Money follows clarity, not chaos. Money follows people who know where they're going, not people who are going everywhere at once. You want to stop being broke, stop being busy. Start being intentional, and that means you must become brutally clear about what actually moves your life forward. You must identify the few actions that create the most outcomes. You must learn to say no to everything that distracts you. You must protect your time with the same ferocity you protect your dreams, because time is the currency of success, and distractions are the silent thieves that steal your future. But here's the twist. The reason most people avoid high-impact tasks is because they require courage. Making a bold decision requires courage. Learning a new skill requires courage. Changing careers requires courage. Asking for money requires courage. Starting a business requires courage. Selling your idea requires courage. Trying something new requires courage, and people avoid courage because courage feels uncomfortable. But uncomfortable actions lead to abundant lives. People stay broke not because of a lack of knowledge, but because of a lack of focused courage. They know what they need to do. Deep down, they know which steps move them forward. But they choose the easy path instead of the effective one. And wealthy people do the opposite. They choose effectiveness even when it's hard. So let this truth echo in your heart. Progress is not about doing more. Progress is about doing what matters, again and again and again. If you want to break the cycle of being broke, you must break the cycle of wasting your energy on the wrong things. You must become laser-focused. You must elevate your standards. You must choose alignment over activity, productivity over busyness, destiny over distraction. Because